we now have, because of this process, the Supreme Court that has been, many people are saying, delegitimized, that it's openly partisan, that, it's always been that way. People who've looked back in history know that that's the case, but now it's bald and open for everyone to see. And it's very, very difficult, despite, Kavanaugh's Wall Street Journal op-ed where he said, I'm going to be nonpartisan, and I, was just angry, but literally I will be impartial. And no one, actually believes that. But now you've also got, somehow because of the Mueller investigation, the FBI was sort of, which, nobody likes the FBI, but then all of a sudden people were relying on it. And now after this investigation, it's also been thrown. Let's say it suffered a big, drop in its esteem by the population. So we're in a situation now where most people don't have real representation. That's absolutely the case. But now we also have most of the institutions completely discredited. So I don't know if we should turn this into a discussion of strategy, but it seems like not a bad idea to talk about what to do now besides mobilizing and striking. The people who voted for Trump can certainly be one to the other side. I've always believed that. So I want to hear what you have to think.
Right. So the crisis of legitimacy, this is a continuum. So the Supreme Court is experiencing a crisis of legitimacy because of the way that the Kavanaugh confirmation process has rolled out and the fact that he's the most unpopular person who's ever been floated to the Supreme Court, like maybe ever. I don't know, certainly in living memory. Mm-hmm. And the FBI, too, experiencing a small crisis of legitimacy, though it remains to be seen, because if the Democrats continue to rely on the FBI to fight their battles for them instead of fighting themselves as one of the two major political parties in the United States, obviously tasked with doing politics, then maybe they will resuscitate the reputation of the FBI, and maybe people will fall for it once again. Yeah. But these are a part of a continuum of a broader crisis of legitimacy. So I wrote in my essay, The Banality of Brett Kavanaugh, that I think what's really happening is that there's a collapse of the fantasy of meritocracy. The idea that if somebody is up at the highest echelons of power in our society, that is proof that they have some sort of superior hardwiring, they have some special insight that actually, guarantees them the right to be there, right? It's extremely tautological. We know they're up there because they had the, something special that got them climbing all the way up the ladder. And we know that people can climb all the way up the ladder because look at all these eminent people at the top of the ladder and how eminent they are, right? Right. So this has been collapsing for a long time because the flip side of it is that, meritocracy is an ideology that reinforces capitalism. It basically says the people at the top deserve to be there because anybody can get to the top if they work hard enough. But the flip side is that if you're at the bottom, that means you didn't have what it takes or you didn't work hard enough to get to the top. And that worked for a while, but honestly, so many people are at the bottom now that I think people are growing a little resentful and they're growing a little disillusioned with the idea of meritocracy. People know they work hard. People know they deserve good things. The social safety net is fraying. The jobs are not, the opportunities are not presenting themselves. And I think that people's, belief in meritocracy is wearing thin. I think that Trump is actually a phenomenon that speaks to a sort of almost like a nihilistic response to that.
I think that's true.
People know that meritocracy is kind of a sham, and so some people are like, well, let's pick someone who's a complete outsider. I'm tired of all this Ivy League, these Ivy League blue bloods, running the show and telling me that the reason I don't run the show and can't even, get a decent foothold is because I, am inferior or whatever. Like, screw that. I'm going with the outsider. Of course, he's not an outsider, but people have a pretty low level of class consciousness, so they're not thinking about the fact that, a billionaire can never really be an outsider. He's a political outsider. So that's the nihilistic response. But there's another potential response, which is personified in Bernie Sanders, which is that people are rejecting this idea, this meritocratic idea that obviously, Hillary Clinton is at the top because she deserves to be at the top and it's her turn and she has the experience, and you can tell that she has the experience because she's been at the top for a while, and the reason she's been there is because she deserves to be there, which we know because she's there, right? People are waving that away and they're interested in something else. They're interested in, in a politics of economic redistribution and in a politics of giving ordinary people opportunities and spreading around prosperity in our society. So we're looking at two divergent paths here. If there is, in fact, a crisis of legitimacy in the dominant institutions, whether that's the Supreme Court or whether that's, the Ivy League and the pipeline between the Ivy League and the halls of political power, then there are two directions that we can go in. One of them is class conscious and the other one is not. I think that's actually what it comes down to.